Welcome to Detailing with Mark. Today I'm going to give you my quick thoughts on the 2020 BMW M2 CS. So this is a little bit different from my typical car review. The reason is that while I drove the car for about 1 to 2 hours, unfortunately I did not have my video camera and equipment with me. So you'll have to settle for some great photos and some hopefully great audio commentary. The car was amazing and I felt like I had to share my experience even though there's no video, so I hope you still enjoy it. With that said, let's get into the review. So let's talk looks. There are many things that distinguish the M2 CS from the competition or the base M2. First off, there's a really cool scoop in the hood, I assume for airflow purposes. The front bumper has a really low carbon fiber splitter on it, but probably my favorite design cue of all are the optional gold wheels. I think they cost like $7,500 for the set. They are amazing. They look fantastic. Rounding out the appearance, we have the rear. There is a small carbon fiber decklid spoiler and a rear air diffuser on the bottom. Both really nice touches that are functional as well. So let's talk power. 444 horsepower, 406 foot-pounds of torque. The power is fantastic. Twin turbo inline six that we're all familiar with. It is boosted so well. A little bit of lag down low. Where this car is really a beast is the mid-range. The mid-range punch is just almost frightening. It's fantastic. There are a few times when I was driving this car where once the turbos were boosted and the full power kicked in, I thought the car was going to pull a wheelie. I swear I felt the front end lift up. I thought the car was literally going to pull a wheelie and flip over. It was insane. Brutal acceleration throughout the rev range. It is absolutely awesome. So raw. The exhaust sounds fantastic. This is the best modern BMW, I think, bar none. It's sublime. Fantastic. The DCT transmission is fantastic. It pairs really well with the engine. It rips off shifts so crisp and so hard. It's absolutely brutal. The shifts feel like a mule kick in the back. It is just incredible. So in terms of handling, typical BMW M car, fantastic handling, excellent grip. You've got those lightweight gold wheels, 245 Michelin Cup 2 tires up front, 265s out back. Very aggressive, like a track tire. Very sticky, very grippy. So the grip is fantastic. Having said that, the car has so much power. If you're mid-corner and you stomp on it and you get the full boost mid-turn, I lost the back end a few times. Not much. It was just kind of a little scoot out, which I easily corrected. But it's easy to overwhelm the back end if you're in M2 mode. M2 turns off traction control and has some other high performance features. So I was in that mode a lot and the tail kicked out a little bit. To me, it was part of the fun. It was actually amazing to me how quickly the tail got back in line, and I just continued on my driving line. Like I drove, for example, years ago, a Camaro SS. You swing that back end around, it's like if it's 2 inches of slip, it's 20 feet of slip. The back end comes around on you in like a second, and you've almost flipped 180 degrees. This is not that. Very controllable. The slip is predictable. Obviously, if you don't want slip, just don't put it in the modes where traction control is off and it'll stick like glue. The handling and the grip is fantastic. I mean, no surprise there. Just a wonderful experience. The steering is very heavy. It's very precise. You move it a quarter of an inch and the car does something. I love it. It's what you would expect of a BMW M vehicle. Reminds me a lot of the E90, E92 hydraulic steering back in the day. It's really amazing how far electric steering has come. BMW did a really excellent job here. The car feels great on the road. It goes where you point it. It's very tossable. You can feel the light weight of it. You can flick it all over the place and it just turns and moves on a dime. I think it's excellent. The handling is really precise, very tossable car. A very nice, thick, well-padded steering wheel. The one in the car I drove was Alcantara. It's really nice, very grippy. It comes in very handy when you're racing around and hanging on for dear life, that's for sure. Brakes, excellent. Great pedal feel, very progressive, super strong stopping power. These were not the carbon ceramic brakes. I still think they were fantastic. If you track your car regularly, maybe you want the ceramics for 10 grand. I think that's a really pricey option, or whatever it costs in this car. I think the standard brakes are excellent. That's what I would get personally if I bought one. So the ride is quite firm, as you would expect from a BMW M car. I actually like it. I think it's tolerable. There's a trade-off, right? Obviously, if the handling is insane, the ride is going to be stiff. It's a pretty stiff ride, but it's, I think it's doable. I've read a lot of comments online and reviews saying that the ride is so punishing, it's just not really livable. I wouldn't drive the car 5 hours to LA, but around town for an hour or two, which is what I did, I think the ride is perfectly livable. Yeah, it's firm, it's stiff, but don't you want that in a car like this? I do. I like the way BMW does firm. It's firm, but it doesn't jolt you like, say, an Audi, in my opinion, does. So I think it's typical BMW suspension, about as firm as you'll get, but compliant enough for a car like this. I think it adds to the experience personally. It's obviously not for road trips, so it is what it is. I think the ride is absolutely fine for what the car is. A quick note on the interior. It's your typical BMW interior. I love them. I've had 4 BMW 3 Series in a row. I love the way BMWs do interiors. Simple, functional. It's just very basic. I like it. Some people say, well, Audi's is so much more advanced or luxurious. Sure. I don't really care about that kind of stuff, but it's your typical M3, M4 interior, I think, which I think is a good thing. The seats were fantastic, I'll tell you that. Deep buckets really hold you in well. Aside from that, it was a typical modern M series interior, which I think is just right personally. So if you like BMW interiors, you'll love this one. So my final thought on the M2 CS, I guess you could think of it maybe as a lighter, faster, smaller version of the M4, and certainly more exclusive. So I'm not trying to trivialize the M2 CS or the M4, but maybe that's a good way to think about it. So whether that comparison or description makes it more or less attractive for you, I'm not sure, but the M2 CS is definitely a very quick, very small, agile, light, super fast, just wonderful car, and very unique as well. Many reviewers out there have said that the M2 CS is a better track car than the M4. Maybe that's the case. I don't know. I haven't driven either on the track, so I honestly don't know. But some of that makes sense, right? The M4 is a bigger car, much longer wheelbase. It's going to soak up bumps a little better and ride a little less firm, a little less stiff. The M2, very short wheelbase, and that certainly contributes to the ultra firm ride it has. But I still think the ride is great. If I had to choose between the two, I'm probably more of an M4 guy. I want a little more compliance, like if I decide to take it on a 3-hour drive or something. The M2 CS is a little intense for long highway drives, but that's just my opinion. It depends on what you want. For the track, I could see the M2 CS being the better car, or just for short burst driving, the M4 just a little better, to own as a car, to put 60, 80,000 miles on. M2 CS is that's not really the purpose, and it's a special car, so I don't think anybody's probably going to be racking up that type of mileage anyways. So what are the downsides of the CS? Well, one is the cost. At about $86,000 sticker price for the one I drove, it's expensive, more than the competition, a lot more than the base. Is it worth it? That's kind of subjective, honestly. It's hard for me to justify the CS. One is they're selling for over sticker in the 90s from what I've seen. That is roughly double the price of a 2017 standard M2. Now, granted, the 2017 doesn't have anywhere near the power or the features or the lighter weight, but hard for me to justify $90,000, roughly double the cost of a several years old standard M2. I would go with the older standard one. It's good enough for me. Is the BMW M2 CS the best modern BMW? I think it might be. I love it. I'll tell you that much. It's incredible. So thanks for watching. If you enjoyed the video, I hope you give it a like. Always appreciate comments, and of course subscribe if you don't want to miss any of my future videos. I've got a lot of cool cars I plan to drive coming up. Don't miss it. Subscribe today. Thanks again, guys, and we'll see you next time.